What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Hang 10, hanging out here in the Wavy Plus studio. Big thanks to A1 American, the sponsor of Hang 10, the new sponsor of Hang 10. We are here with a very special guest today. If you surf in Virginia Beach or really just the surrounding area in general, you most likely know who this guy is. You've seen him out in the water plenty of times. This is Ed Obermeyer. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
I'm so excited to do this because I've seen you plenty of times out in the water shooting, and I'm obviously a little new to the area as I've been, starting here at Wavy around 4 months ago. But one of the biggest names I heard when kind of starting surfing here was Ed. And you just being in the water all the time, really stoked. Shooting and your artwork is fantastic.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to get into it with maybe for anybody who doesn't know who you are or what you do, kind of explain what drives you.
The ocean. Since 1964, when I started surfing and getting rides down here from Alexandria, Virginia, I was one of those valley boys that, was rejected and brushed off because the localism was really strong back then.
Right.
And I don't think it's so bad anymore. Now the localism's better and the vibe is more positive in the water. There's a whole kind of nice bromance out there in the water between all different ages and genders. Everybody's, whatever differences you have, when you get in the water, it's all gone. So what stokes me is the water, the ocean, and the people in it, and the positivity out there, and being able to look into that blue space, that infinite blue space, and not see any development out there yet.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, right now it's pretty good. I like seeing that the mountains. I always want to look over the mountain to see what's next. But the ocean is infinite.
It's all out there.
And that psychologists say that's called blue space, and it's good for your head. It makes you feel relaxed.
I think that's something that a lot of surfers and just people in the ocean can all agree with.
Yeah.
You go in the water, you feel that energy of the waves kind of, moving through you, and the stress levels just completely fade away.
Especially at dawn when it's dark and you're waiting for the sun to come up, and then it illuminates and becomes this lavender and this golden color that's just combined with the complementary blues and greens. It's a beautiful time.
And it's also probably nice, not many people out there at that time. You got to be pretty dedicated to be up early and kind of going. And so it's just you and the ocean.
Exactly.
So talk to me a little bit about when you started kind of surf photography and surf art as a whole. What inspired you to get kind of into something like that?
I think the surf photography started when I was in the Army from 69 to 72 during the Vietnam era. But instead of going to Vietnam, like all my friends that came out of jump school, they sent me to Panama to A Special Forces. I wasn't Special Forces. I was just an airborne engineer, but stationed in an SF unit.
Yeah.
And after you did your field training exercises, they would give you 5 weekdays and 2 weekends off.
Yeah.
So I'd go to the other side and surf in Panama, and then I got really good. And when I got there, I was an average surfer because the East Coast is so hard to learn.
Oh, of course.
But in Panama, the point breaks were so perfect. I had perfect waves to myself every day, and pretty much empty waves that were point break waves that were totally predictable. So I learned very quickly how to be better.
Right.
And then moved to Florida after that and got really good and very competitive down there. And then decided to go to VCU and finish my education and painted T-shirts and surfboards for money to pay my way through college.
Right.
And then after VCU, came down here and started teaching in '78.
Nice.
And that's when the surf photography, I got involved with the ESA, which is still an amazing organization. And I was a judging coordinator with Paul West and Harry Perkey at the time, and got really involved with WRV, painting their boards, and then Hotline's boards, and then eventually everybody's boards.
Yeah.
I would. At first, I was working in their factories. Then it got to the point where it was just too toxic in the factory. So I would pick up the boards and bring them home, and built a shed to paint them at home, and did pickup and delivery service with airbrush boards. And
so it all started with painting surfboards.
Yeah.
Cool. And people would ride these boards too, like this. For any reason. Yeah, they'd hang them on their wall or surf with them.
Well, and I was with WRV, so that since I was on their surf team, and I was a good competitor, they would give me a new board every 4 months. But I would just airbrush the heck out of it and not really have to pay for it, and then resell it at this ridiculous price because I had color on both sides maxed out.
Yeah.
I always maxed out the airbrush on both sides of my boards.
And it seems like you put a lot of love and care into each piece you do too. So
each one was personal.
Yeah.
And then I started the Boardwalk Art Show and the Neptune Festival in 78 and got multiple rejections and acceptances over the years based on the art that eventually developed to a good enough quality where I didn't get as many rejections.
Yeah.
So to my fellow artists out there, don't give up hope. You know, that when you're not invited, it's not a bad thing. It just makes you become more introspective and look at yourself and go, maybe I need to stop doing so many things and focus on one specific subject or style and you have to develop a style that nobody else has. So I have a strong history of a knowledge of art history through teaching for 34 years. So each year I'd be teaching kids and researching art history myself. And that knowledge base let me know of art styles that have been done.
Yeah.
And I could travel and experience other cultures like the Aborigines in Australia, which helps me transform into a style I call post-Aboriginal modernism. And it's a mixture of modern art and Aboriginal pattern making and pinstriping on motorcycles and cars that I used to do with these fancy little brushes like this. These are made by my friend Von Dago Pro Series.
Nice.
He makes all my custom brushes for me, and he's just remarkable. Some more of his cool liner brushes and detail brushes.
And so you use these for pretty much anything that you do, really. Is this a everyday part of your operation?
Yeah. If I'm not doing photographs, I'm in the studio painting or I'm out gardening. So I have a passion for gardening, just like I do with painting.
Of course.
And then the passion for the ocean with photography and actually surfing when I get a chance. But usually now, as I've gotten older, we were discussing earlier, age and how it affects surfing as you get older.
And knowing limitations.
Yeah, and so each decade you have new limitations. So now I'm at the age, I'm in my 70s, so the double overhead days, I shoot from the beach with this massive big lens up here.
Yeah.
And that's this is a 2 to 800 millimeter super telephoto. And then I have a 1 to 400, 1 to 500. But I use this exclusively now because it's such a great lens with the mirrorless cameras.
Right.
And I have a couple of those.
So when did you realize that this kind of art form for you, getting into the ocean and really being, you're putting yourself directly in where you're shooting. When did you realize that this was something that was going to stick with you for a long time?
I think it started back when I was shooting slide film with Mickey McCarthy in the Outer Banks and other great photographers around here. And he was a huge influence. Yeah. And after all those years of going to the Outer Banks every other weekend and shooting slides of other people surfing and surfing, I was using Mickey's photos as my visual reference for my paintings. And I say, I've got to do my own, So I got a GoPro.
Yeah.
And started using the GoPro and got all the tools to use the GoPro, the special little housing for it, and got pretty good with that, but it just wasn't it.
Yeah. And
then I got dialed in with Aquatech through some other photographers in Hawaii, and they encouraged me to get an Aquatech housing, so I did. Yeah. And then the go-to lenses are the 24 to 105 and the 70 to 200. So when I'm shooting the World Surf League events in Virginia Beach or Surfline stuff.
Which are coming up soon, by the way, right?
Yeah. So I'll be out there swimming for them then.
Awesome.
And I use this particular model right here. This is my favorite Aquatech housing, and it has a 70 to 200 millimeter lens and a port that goes on it. And you have full access. All these buttons on the back, I can access.
They stick out.
Right. I could push every button. Like the autofocus button is right here. When I want to use it, I can hold it with one hand, and I'll shoot with the trigger with my index finger.
Right.
And then I use my other hand to zoom in and out. So I can zoom in and out 70 to 200 millimeter. When you're shooting pros in the water, if you came from South Africa and a kook like me got in your way in the water and blew your best wave of the heat, you'd be less than happy.
Yeah.
So, and so would I, that I ruined your best wave of the heat. And
right.
You could have been the world champ. So, and they know that too. So that when they hired me to do this, I said, look, I've got the gear, I've got the experience, I've got over 50 years of surfing experience.
Oh, right.
I know where they're going to be in the water before they get there.
Totally.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
But the pros are super fast. They got
right.
the boys in Sandbridge that are the local rippers that have won these contests. They're incredible. Yeah. There's the men and women both are just like super fast.
Yeah.
So you've got to really keep your head on a swivel because you might be looking at this person, that person's paddling over real close to you. So you've got to duck dive under them and be aware.
Exactly.
Spatial awareness is
So we're
critical.
kind of getting into the surf gear. We'll take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to really dive into some of the stuff you use on an everyday basis. And then after that, we'll take another break and we'll start talking about the artwork as a whole. So we've got a lot coming.
Nice.
Stick around and we'll be right back. All right, everybody, we're back. Welcome to Hang 10. I'm here with Ed Obermeyer. Ed, you are the man, the myth, the legend around here when it comes to surf photography, surf art. What do you think? What do you think when I say that? I feel like you are. Everybody thinks it.
I'm not too keen on the legend word. I just love what I do. I'm a people person.
Of course.
I've always loved people. That's why I got into teaching. You know, I like being with people and talking to people.
Yeah. Well, speaking of teaching, break down for maybe people who are trying to get into kind of things like similar to what you do with the surf photography and the surf art. Kind of break down some of your gear. That maybe some of the basic stuff and then get into maybe more of the advanced stuff too, because you've accumulated a ton of gear over your span of doing this. We have it all kind of laid out. I don't even think this camera can really do it justice of just how much stuff we have here. It was more stuff than I thought even would really go into something like this.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's break it down kind of one by one here. What's your go-to?
My go-to lens right now is the 70-200, but if you're going to start, get a good housing. The Aquatech housing, like this one here, they're around 1,200, and they go up as you add things. Mine's fully loaded with all the buttons for all the access on the camera for every single thing.
Yeah.
And then a pistol grip is really critical. You want that, so if you're using a zoom lens, you want one hand to be able to zoom and the other one to shoot. Or you can shoot from up here. I do both.
Got it.
Depending, like when I'm wearing wetsuit gloves, obviously the trigger's better.
Yeah.
And when you don't have gloves on, you have more fingers and more access points to do things. Otherwise, when in the winter, you have to set it and forget it and hope you get the good shot and you did your settings correctly.
Right.
But I would start with a 50mm prime lens and a shorter port. A port is this little thing. Here's a port for my 24 to 105.
Right.
Okay. And it also has another part that it sits on like this. And this screws into the base of the water housing, which is on this side.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, so that would be it would be extended outward.
Yeah.
Got it.
This pops off.
Okay, I see.
And then inside, you have threads. And then you screw this on.
Got it.
So I'm going to screw this on as if I was using the 24 to 105. And then that's just the first part. And a 24-105 is a wide angle lens. So when you have I use two different flat ports. So if I'm using this flat port, that wide flared thing is so that I don't get the vignetting or rounded corners.
Right.
Don't get the rounded corners. You have two release buttons on the top. You pull with your finger, pull up. And these weigh a lot. You know, I never weighed it poundage wise, but they have a lot of weight. And
So you're getting a workout in when you're doing this in the water too.
Oh, with a 70-200, it
a lot
weighs
of gear.
ton. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this comes off like so, and you can see all the buttons right there
yeah.
on the back plate. So a custom back plate, I would get everything. Because if you go minimal and get just the standard back plate, later you're going to go, I wish I would have, could have, should have, but then you have to buy a whole nother back plate.
And obviously this is stuff you kind of can accumulate over time. This isn't things that you need right off the bat. But it's something you can work towards if you're really interested in it.
Inside is a little digital cord that plugs into the side of your camera and a metal plate down here. And if you look at my other housing, we set this one down. Actually, while I have this one, here's another port that I use.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is called a dome port, and you use this in super clear water.
Okay.
Like in the Caribbean, or when I'm shooting in the wave park, hopefully very soon. I'll be using this one a good bit, but I have to be very close because I'll be using this 16 to 35 millimeter. It's this 16 to 35 is just the other side of fisheye.
Right.
It's super wide angle.
Got it.
I use it for, wide angle landscape and seascapes or shooting pictures of my tent and all my artwork for shows.
Yeah.
But a wide angle lens like that is really good. This is the 24 to 105, which goes with this particular flared port.
Got it.
This is the go-to one you saw me with that weighs a ton, okay? And inside on my port, the biggest problem is water drops. So when I first started this, I talked to Sean Davey and Hawaii and some of the other pros, and they were talking about licking it and then using candle wax and surf wax, squeegees.
Yeah.
And licking it, your saliva works really good.
For people who maybe don't, understand that At least for me, I surf with GoPros all the time in my mouth, and we have the lick and dunk techniques. We lick the lens, dunk it in water, and that, for the most part on the GoPro, it helps to limit the water droplets. But for this, it's maybe a little bit of a bigger operation.
And even licking the lens, you have to wait a few minutes, you know,
of course,
3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But with this stuff, this is the magic bullet called Clarify.
That's the secret stuff right there.
You put about 4 or 5 drops of Clarify on the port, let it dry for 5 minutes, and you're good to go.
For the whole session?
For the whole session.
Wow.
So this is the go-to lens that I use for just about everything. So when you see me in the water, this is what I'm using. You take the back plate off. And you can see there's the camera.
Yeah.
It's sitting inside. There's a mounting plate right on the bottom. And I have access to all my buttons inside here on the back plate itself.
Yeah. And obviously the mounting plate's huge so that you don't have your camera, you know, shaking around in the housing itself.
The back plate on the new water housings, I've been with several Aquatech versions.
Yeah.
And I also had the carbon fiber CMT housings, which were good and lighter, but more complicated to get service. Aquatech, their service has been amazing.
Yeah.
Whenever I've had trouble, they don't even question it. They just send it in, Ed. We'll take a look at it. We'll fix it. Or if I needed a port, you know, and something happened, it got scratched, they'd send me a scratch repair kit or you know, give me some upgraded port at a discounted price or something. But Aquatech their customer service is through the roof. They're really great.
Now, obviously, you know, we have the camera gear, but we also have the surf gear. You're getting into the water when you're doing all this. So you're doing this all year round. You have the wetsuits. You have, it looks like we have the good shot of this. We have the helmets. The flipper, you know, the flippers to, you know, kind of fight the current here and there too.
Let's start with these guys.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is the Simba helmet. So pretty popular at Nazare and certain places in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I bought it because it looks cool and it, you know, I look like a gladiator.
There you go.
But aesthetically, it looks neat. But function-wise, the little beak on the front, to me, is problematic for shooting pictures.
Got it.
You know, it just got in my way quite a bit. And plus, I couldn't see the surfers as well when I was shooting for the ECSE. The Neo hat from Gath, I have all 3 of their helmets, the SFC, the Neo hat, and that other one I can't remember the name of. But this is the most comfortable one. It has this nice rubber pad to protect your forehead when you get hit.
Of course.
Because you will. You know, if you're going to do this, don't think you're all that. Because
you're getting really involved.
This isn't about ego. This is about safety, all right? So first thing you want is you want to have a good padded suit. So I use this suit right here. And this is a Buell floaty suit. Got nice big pads. A real tiny bit of flotation, but not so much.
Right.
Flotation's your enemy. If you're doing this, if you have a lot of flotation...
Well, you want to be able to get out of the way if, you know, there's a lot of surfers coming by.
What's going to happen is if you have a lot of flotation, you're not going to be able to duck under the wave.
Of course.
And the white water's going to push you back to the beach.
You get sucked over the falls.
Plus you're going to lose a lot of energy.
Right.
You know, and when you're in your 70s, saving every square second of energy is really critical.
Right.
So I don't want to be pushed back to the beach fighting the foam the whole time. So minimal flotation. But you need some padding. And that's where this comes in. This is a O'Neill impact vest. I also use Patagonia impact vest. I use Billabong impact vest. But these are great. You know, they're just... I've been hit with these, and boards just bounce right off. You feel like Superman.
Yeah.
But you're not. I mean, you can still get hurt with these as well.
Oh, of course.
But every ounce of prevention is worth it. And know your limitations, you know, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, when it's a foot or 2 overhead, now I have to use this. I go to the beach, and I got to have a tripod. If you don't have it, and I've got a Manfrotto tripod, that thing is a beast. And I can sit there and flip it around, and it's good in all kinds of weather. And the new mirrorless cameras work with these new telephoto lenses so well. It's just, there's very little editing. Like in the beginning, you're going to fail constantly and in 3 hours, take 3,000 pictures and maybe have 25 keepers.
Right, of course.
A lot of them are maybe just because they're redundant or the focal lock didn't get right. You know, learning your focus is really critical. Spend a lot of time on YouTube or talk to professionals and really get to understand the focus modes, because the new cameras have a steep learning curve. You've got to really go through and study it. And I still learn. Every time I go out, I will never know enough about all this stuff. You know,
but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it's like you got some settings, like, but when you're looking to the north, your ISO is one setting. But when you're looking south, then it has to be another setting. Of course. Because there's light coming in and looking
different angles
south more than there is going north.
Yeah.
you want to set your shutter speed to probably 1/2500, 1/4000. I found that's a real comfortable range to get fast-moving subjects focused.
For surfing, that's going to help.
And I use one focal point, and I always use servo, AI servo. You don't want one shot because that's for shooting portraits. So shoot on servo mode. That mode is critical. And so the three things in photography, basically you've got your shutter speed, your ISO, and your aperture.
Yeah.
And all that is about several things. First of all, it's your lens, like the real expensive lenses that cost $20,000, $30,000, they're f1.8 or something. So the lowest I'll go is f4. Now that's a higher number. You go, you said the lowest you go is f4, and now you're talking, 1.8. Well, the numbers are everything. The lower the number, the wider the aperture. So the more light comes into the lens.
Yes.
So f4 is a pretty wide aperture. If you get into f6, f8, that's a smaller aperture. What does that mean? That means that there's not enough light coming into the lens to get onto the sensor of the camera. And that's where ISO comes in. That's another critical number. I used with DSLRs, until recently I sold 3 of those, but they lasted for a few years. But then the mirrorless came, and with ISO, I could never go above 500 or the image would get very grainy. If the ISO went up to, say, 800, it would look like snowflakes all over the picture, or salt and pepper. Right?
So it is a science. It really is.
Oh, it's math and science. Yeah, that's the neat thing, because when I was teaching art, it was all about arte scienzae. Da Vinci's, one of his many principles of learning. Art and science aren't different. They're all connected. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Art and science are part of this whole package. You have to embrace it.
You can't understand one without understanding the other in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, it is art and science, and understanding the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture is critical. So back to that, the lenses I use are generally f4, and then the super wide angle is the f2.8. But those give me a lot of light into the barrel, so I can shoot in a low light condition.
Right.
But when I'm using the big lens, that's a f6.3, and I've never gone that small of an aperture. When you get above f4, the aperture or the opening of the lens is smaller. There's less light coming in, so you got to push the ISO
higher to compensate.
That means if you have 1/4000th of a shutter speed, the camera will say, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it's going to change stuff for you. You might have chosen 1/4000th of a second, but it'll change it to maybe 1/200th of a second. And drop it ridiculously low because your ISO is set too high. So you got to balance those numbers to match the barrel of the lens. If it's an f4 lens, you want your aperture and ISO to work together to give you that. And that only comes through practice. Yeah.
Hey, if you're looking to get involved, say, younger, I took photography in high school. Take photography class. It's one of the most fun classes, at least from what I remember back in high school, middle school, but it's also, it can really, propel you into something like this, a big passion.
Yeah.
Or maybe even a career.
And read and learn. I read books. I watch YouTube videos. I read forums. I try to get feedback from professionals, but I don't want to harass them to the point of, whatever. But so it's good just to read and learn. Learning is fun.
Right.
Especially when it's something you need to know that's going to help you be a better version of yourself. So keep watching new things and keep learning.
Yeah.
Because every day, this stuff changes by the second.
Of course.
When I get into Lightroom and Photoshop, there isn't a day it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, it's going to be different than it was today. There'll be new facets of Lightroom that are just remarkable, and new filters, and with all the AI possibilities coming out, it's just
so many more things.
I've got to compete with people that are using all AI. It's like, some of us are still manually figuring this out. So cut some slack here. Respect the work.
Yeah, of course. We're gonna take a quick break. When we get back, we're gonna talk about the surf art side of things. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Hang 10. We are gonna go. We're gonna wrap this up with talking about some of your artwork, because it's awesome. It's so cool. And I love the way you do it. And it's very cool that a lot of your pieces, it starts with the photography side of things, and then you bring it to life with the artwork. I think it's really something.
Thank you.
So here's one of them. One of them down there, you can kind of see there's the We got a little shot of it. Here's one of the pieces. This is the photograph that you took in the, where was this? This is Virginia Beach.
Yeah, actually, this was one of the inspirations for this year's Neptune Festival poster.
Okay.
And I got up at 4 a.m. to get across the street with all my art.
Yeah.
Because they have the parade. First, they have the race in the morning and closes the streets at dawn. And then you can't get across the street with all your stuff. So I get up at 4. I'm there by 5. Put my stuff in my tent. Put my wetsuit on and swim out alone. And swam for 2 or 3 hours to get all these shots. And much to my surprise, we had like nice little chest high, waist high waves, glassy offshore winds. And as I was looking towards the beach, I looked through the barrel and I saw the 24th Street Life-Saving Museum, the art tents on the boardwalk. And I went, oh my God, this is like the perfect Neptune Festival poster. They've got to see this.
Yeah.
And so I took thousands of shots that morning because the conditions were so epic. And then I came up with, this is one of the ones in the series called the Neptune Rising series.
Yeah.
And I've done a couple dozen paintings in this series.
So we've got the photograph there from the actual camera in this shot, but then this one here, wrong camera, this one, that's the painting.
Yep.
Awesome. So cool.
And the painting has the hotels and everything. And then I start with black and work my way up into the light with layers of color.
Yep.
And then I continue building up layers with those tiny little pinstripe brushes and liner brushes and scrolling brushes.
Yeah.
The brushes typically used for doing motorcycle work, pinstriping on cars. But I did that too for a while to work my way through college. I did a couple of hot rods and some motorcycles. But I got tired of all the toxicity of those things. And these brushes still work great with water-based acrylics. So that's like a real bonus. So, but caring for them is really critical. I use special oils to keep them in shape and clean. You don't let it sit for even a minute with paint on it. You rinse it right away and oil it up.
Well, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your expertise and your story and kind of how you got into this whole thing.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope it's inspired some others that,
I'm sure,
regardless of age, it's never too late to start anything, whether you're a young person or an older person. But just keep in mind the safety gear, and,
of course.
And start small. Start with a 50 millimeter prime lens. You'll always get good shots with that. It's affordable and get you into the door.
Right.
And then gradually move on.
You excel as you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Ed, so much for joining me. We'll have you on again sometime soon.
Love it. Thanks, Brian.